Hello everyone, this is FideMaster Victor Neustroyev. Please let me know whether the sound and video is good. So today we start a little earlier, but because we are waiting for more people to join us, let's just warm up, and I'm going to play a few games, or maybe just one game on chess.com. So today the topic of the webinar will be determining positional factors. Okay, so everything should be working. Okay, and let's just play 3 plus 2. Okay, looks like I was paired with someone. Okay, e4. So recently I dropped my rating because I haven't been playing blitz for a while, and mainly I lose by time, but I also blunder. Okay, bishop e7. So how to play? Let's castle. Knight f6. Okay, d3. d6, fine. A4. Let's start with a4. To be able to get the bishop to a2. Okay, here knight c3. This is Hungarian defense. So bishop g4 is a playable move. I was analyzing this position, so h3 first. And then let's play knight d5. Well, if he takes on f3, I take on f3 with my queen. Okay, the bishop goes back. I can still do this move. Pawn takes. Okay, knight goes there. For knight before I had d4, but maybe I also had d4 for this. Let me see. Okay, well, bishop g5 is also playable, but then knight, okay, let's just do this move with the idea of doing d4 next. Okay, let's do d4. So knight takes, f5 is now available. Okay, knight f5. Okay, can I go there? What about this move? Shouldn't be a big issue. At the very least, I can capture with the queen. But it's not the only option, actually. So people are joining, and please let me know whether you can see the screen. Okay, so 97 fails here, but queen d5 should be fine. So I think this guy blundered this idea. Okay, well, queen f7 should be played. This is a must. And after he goes, I think I have to take on f6 because it leads to a checkmate. Well, yes, you have to take, but it doesn't help you to not lose, because after rook e8, the game is over. Thank you for the game. Let's play someone else, but this is a nice one. So my opening preparation worked. Okay, this time I'm playing with black. So Sicilian. c3. Okay, and a lapping variation. Okay, so d3, this is a weakness. This can be a weakness too, but well, e5. I'm going to attack e5. Okay, so let's try to attack this pawn with knight g7. Knight goes to g6. Is there anything else better than this? Okay, no. What can I do in this position? Knight g6, knight f5, knight g6. Probably he does bishop f4. Well, bishop f4 is not a good idea, actually. Queen e2, queen e2, fine. So queen c7 and queen c7 looks reasonable. Then bishop f4, and I can play f6 maybe then. What else? What else? Don't want to spend much time on it. Okay, let's do queen c7. Knight a3. So knight b5 is coming. a6, b5, knight d6. Well, d takes c3 makes a lot of sense. Well, let's play this move first and then decide. And maybe a6, but then he plays d4. I don't know whether d4 is a problem or not. Probably not a big problem. So I think the best scenario, so he takes with the pawn, I play a6, he plays knight c4, I play b5, and knight goes to d6. I think this is the best strategy for my opponent. Okay, so he chooses this. So queen e5 or queen b8? I think queen b8. And then a6. I think he should capture there, and I think that he captures with his pawn. This is more logical. But after a6, he has to go there and lose a pawn, actually. Well, if he takes on c3 with his knight, I can capture on e5 right away with one of my knights. Okay, so people are joining. So today we have a very important topic. I just wanted to start a little earlier to warm up and play a couple games. So this is the second game, actually. So what is he thinking about, I wonder? This move. Interesting. So he's about to play knight d6. I don't think it works. So I take, queen takes. What else? Knight d4, a6 right away. a6, knight d6. Oh, no, no, no. take. Okay, so let's take there. And there. And now it's hanging. So I have to play a6. He goes there. So, okay, so I didn't win the pawn, actually. It's a pity. Okay, bishop e7 just. And for knight c4, I prepared b5. Oh, actually, yeah, I did win a pawn. Okay, so he goes to c4. And this is a problem, too. Okay, this. b5. I think I don't hang anything. Castle. f6. Okay, then let me take there. Bishop e5. Just bishop d6 for a while. Knight d4, hanging the rook. So queen f2 doesn't work. Okay, b4. Now queen f2 works. So queen takes, pawn takes. Okay, he doesn't take. So how to continue here? Let's do bishop b5. Bishop takes there. So then what? The capture here. C takes. Okay, so it's the endgame with the bishops of opposite color, which is a pity because I was about to win, but it looks like I have enough number of pawns to be able to play for a win. e5. Oh, I blunder my rook. Oh my God. How is it possible? Oops. Yes, unfortunately, I lose the game. Okay, so yeah, well, next time. Well, I was completely winning here, but yeah, playing with low time. Well, here it's absolutely winning. So which move to play instead? Just that was my original plan. I go there, so he takes, and I go here. And well, he has to take there, but this endgame seems to be winning. For me, h2 is lost, and with 2 pawns at least there, I'm winning completely. So I'd better use this. But okay, fine. Let's go to the profile. So let's talk about our topic today. Before we are starting with our original task, let's discuss what we were doing last time. And the topic last time was about 4 queens, how to place with in the positions with 4 queens on the board. And I told you that in such a case, the most important thing is the king weakness and how you can coordinate 2 queens and whose tempo whose turn to move it is. Okay, so here, by the way, thank you for those who sent the homework. So here, black has a material advantage, but because of their king's position, which is a bit compromised, and because of the position of that king, the king, well, none of these pieces can move, only the king. Well, only these two queens. That's why there is a tactical idea. White can sacrifice these two queens. Well, just taking this queen, which seems to be a winning move, is actually a blunder, because then queen f5, king h4, and queen g4. The queen on e5 cannot be captured. There is a pin. So that's why instead of doing that, you can play queen g8, sacrificing one queen. If the king goes to h6, then it's a repetition with this. If he goes there, it can be even a checkmate with queen h4. That's why they have to repeat the position. So queen g8, king h6. In case if here black decides to block, I think the best strategy is just to take there and capture the queen on e1 for free. So that's why after this sacrifice, this king has to capture queen e8. Now the king goes back and queen g8, and it's the same position. This time after king h6, well, it's either a stalemate in this scenario because the king has no moves, or it is a perpetual check. For example, queen h7, because if the king takes, it is a stalemate again. If the king goes there, then it's queen h5. No, queen h6. Queen h6, and the king has no more moves. This and this are protected by the knight and the king, so he has to take. And now this is a stalemate. Fine. Let's continue. Well, so in this position, white is not losing. They are able to deliver either a perpetual check or a stalemate. So this is the second example. And here it seems, well, white to move, it seems that both promotes the queens simultaneously. But such a checkmate is coming. So that's why, well, any queen can go to f4, and that would lead to a checkmate. That's why it's hard to make a move. It should be a move which covers the f4 square. So here black played queen c1. So the question for you, how to play in this position with white? So who knows? Who can find the best move? White to move, white wins. No ideas, guys. Or maybe there is something wrong with the chat in this meeting. So please let me know if you can type in the chat. Maybe, okay, this is my first webinar. Oh, hi, John. So this is your first webinar. What's your rating? It can be either FIDE rating, chess.com, USCF, anyway, anything, any Just, well, I want to approximately know your strength. So what do you think? How white? Okay, lead chess 21. Okay, so lead chess 21 means approximately 1700 FIDE, approximately, which is quite good. So, okay, there is no checkmate with queen e4. There is no way to get these queens distracted. No, 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 you cannot play. They have two queens supporting it now. But before that, you were trying to deliver a checkmate with this or this move. Yes, so that's why queen c1 was actually played. And yes, well, okay, f4 does make sense with the idea of doing queen g5, but he can also try to stop it with this move. That's why the best way is just knight g6. You win a knight and threaten a checkmate here. You win, yeah, you're up a knight and you threaten with queen h8. So what may happen? They may take with the queen or they may take with a pawn. Taking with the pawn is a disaster. So taking with the queen makes a lot of sense. But then you still win with queen h8 this time. And after the only way to block, queen g takes g7. So this queen is pinned. That's why it cannot capture on g7. This is how you win. Okay, fine. So we are done with the homework from the last topic, and today we are going to start with another topic, and we are going to determine positional factors. And I prepared several examples for you to illustrate it. But before we start, I would like to do an introduction to it. So positional factors are such features of the position which influence on the evaluation of the position. Usually both players have advantages and disadvantages in their position, and the goal of the player is to get rid of his disadvantages, of his weaknesses, and take advantage of his benefits. Well, which disadvantages, which drawbacks of the position we know? Well, weak pawns, weak king, undeveloped pieces, and so on. There are a lot of factors. But the key idea is to value the effect of a certain uh, drawback or benefit on the position. For example, yesterday, my student, Peter, he's not at the webinar because he's living in such a time, he is living in Australia, so he is not able to attend the webinars at this time. So he was too focused on the restriction of the enemy bishop and didn't value how good he controls the center. So he thought, okay, I restrict the bishop, let's focus on it. But instead, he was dominating in the center and could get more space there, let the enemy bishop get revealed, but at the same, this center play would allow him to initiate a counter attack on the queen side and invade the enemy camp with his pieces. So the key idea is to value certain positional factors properly, not undervalue, not overvalue, but you should understand what, well, if this factor is how it is important. So for example, this bishop here is definitely bad, but they have a weakness and the bishop has to defend this weakness, and there is no possibility of this knight to attack the pawn. So that's why the bishop is enough to protect. Does it make sense for black to initiate a counterplay with bishop g5 but give up the pawn on b6? Well, Capablanca decided yes, he wants to win. That's why he played this move. However, if only he located his pieces properly, for example, with queen d7, stopping this invasion of the queen from g4 or from the queen on h3, then what would happen? So at least rook b5, trying to play for a win, take. Then queen f5. This is defending. The king is weak, and it's possible to take advantage of the king's weakness. For example, rook d5. Queen goes there. King f1, and now bishop g5, trying to get the bishop involved. And if rook takes, it's queen c3, so it's equal. This king is weak. There is always a chance of a perpetual check. Okay, fine. So, which mistake you think Capablanca made in this position? Okay, I can try to answer. He overvalued the dynamics of the position. So he thought that after that, he can take advantage of the king's weakness. Well, definitely he calculated this, and then he thought that this invasion will help. Maybe he had in mind knight d5 move, and he was considering his position to be fine. But he thought that bishop g5 and queen e3 provides him with winning chances, which is actually true, but only in case if white makes mistakes. But actually, doing bishop g5 and queen e3 scenario allows white to capture on b6 and get his pieces coordinated comparing to the black pieces that are doing almost nothing on the other sides of the board. So which move you think you should play here as white? So queen g4. So you think you should play queen g4? Okay, queen g4, but what if queen takes c3? So you definitely take on g5, but then it seems queen d3 or queen c2. Okay, so let's say queen, okay, rook b7 is the other move. Okay, let's try. So this, queen g5, and then I play rook a4. Maybe you can draw the game with this. No, then it's a checkmate, right? So rook f6 is a blunder. King goes back is a blunder too. King h6 is a blunder. Okay, so rook a4 was a wrong move. Instead, I should deliver a check. If the king goes to there, then this move is fine. If the king goes there, then I think queen e4 should be played first. Now the king goes back, and then rook a4, because queen a5 doesn't make any sense. So I don't think that queen g4 is the right decision. Rook 6b5 and rook b7 are other candidate move. Rook 6b5. So this move, nice idea. But I just can capture on c3, can I? So looks like no, it's not a nice idea. Rook b7. Yeah, rook b7 does make sense. However, I would continue with... Okay, so this, and this is a check. So looks good. Yeah, rook b7 looks good. Just bishop e7 has to be played. Okay. So Samuel Reshevsky played a much better move. He played king d2. What's the purpose of this move? With small forces, white is able to stop any invasion on the queen side, and is about to continue his attack with rook b7 and so on. The knight is not hanging, there is no check, there is no possibility of capturing on a4, so everything looks good. And this becomes hanging soon. So, well, if, for example, rook a4, hoping that I take, I can just ignore it and capture on d5, for example. This knight is too important for the position. Okay, bishop e7 was played in the game, rook b7. And here, black makes another mistake. Which mistake? What do you think black should play now? What's the main problem of the black's position? So d5 is the main problem. That's why it does make sense to play this move. I agree. So instead of playing aggressively and trying to play for a win, black should just defend their position and play for a draw. So for example, rook h1, hoping to invade the enemy camp. Well, h5, rook g1, trying to put pressure, rook a6, defending it. Then knight d5, but this time after knight d5, it's even possible to play rook d5. And what's then? So if queen takes, let's say, it's queen d3 with a perpetual check. Well, this is a rook hanging, so king e1, queen e3, king f1. Well, okay, it's not a perpetual check, but well, it can be actually. Queen e4, definitely there is a compensation because this is unlikely to work. And the rook is able to join the attack once the king retreats back to the f file. So rook f5, yeah, rook f5 would allow black to hold the position. Instead, black decided to capture on e4, hoping to distract the knight. But, well, the key idea was this: check, king goes there, bishop h4, winning the game. If the king goes to c1, then it's bishop a3, also winning the game. Well, it's not the end. This is the move, but then just rook b7 because the connection between rooks is blocked. But queen d5, there is no need to capture the rook right away. So rook a5 attacking the queen, queen takes the other pawn. Now rook h5 with a counterplay, but king d3. So the king is relatively safe. Queen goes to a8, and now queen e6, attacking e7. So black doesn't have any attack. Well, queen e6 doesn't work, e7 is hanging, these rooks are not coordinated, and the bishop is hanging too. So they played queen e3 to keep the queen active and at the same time protect there. Rook d7 with the idea to double at least. Rook goes there, rook b3, and this rook has to retreat somewhere else, after which it's possible to capture on e7. And after that, just queen f1, king d2, and no more checks. I mean, this check is playable, but how to deal after knight e2? It's simply extra piece for white, and this is where Capablanca resigned. So let's try to analyze this position. I mean, from the mistakes that black played. So what was the critical mistake? So black had a weakness on b6. The white king was weak. And these two problems were approximately equal. So, I mean, one compensated another one. So what black should be doing? They should be defending the pawn. However, if white tries to initiate some aggressive actions, like rook b5, there will be a possibility of entering the enemy camp through f5. Well, so after bishop g5 and rook takes b6, the position became dynamic, and if and black evaluate that position improperly. So instead of looking at the problems that they have, they decided that their queen activity, their bishop activity is enough to attack the white king. However, it's not. So the black's maximum in that original position was hoping for a draw and reroute the queen to try to initiate a counterplay if white makes a mistake. But if white doesn't make a mistake, it's a draw. So if white just plays slowly, doesn't do any aggressive plans, it's a draw. how black wanted to play for win and thought that their initiative after bishop g5 and queen a3 is stronger than the white's one. So that was their mistake. They either didn't calculate the line properly or just didn't evaluate the position properly. I think the mistake of Capablanca was to not evaluate properly. So he overestimated his dynamic factors of the position. In our case, it's initiative. Okay. Yeah, so black should have prophylaxis before that. Okay, the second example, but before we continue, let me tell you about something else that is also important. So it's important to value the effect of the impact of each positional factor to the position. So not only think that, well, this factor, okay, this factor, not just list them, but you should try to understand which factor is most important. So this is more important than this is more important. Because the overestimation of your benefits is likely to lead to wrong decisions. Like, I'm a player who overestimate my benefits. So I I sometimes make serious mistakes and take wrong decision based on my position. So for example, I think, well, my position is better than my opponent's, but it's actually equal. However, if I see a certain plan that improves my position, I'm trying to execute it. Okay, so you have to divide positional factors into two types, permanent and dynamic. Or it's better to say static and dynamic. So static factors are like material advantage, for example. What else? A bishop pair, extra exchange. Well, a passed pawn can be a static factor. The pawn structure, exactly. Well, what dynamic factors are? So the dynamic factor can be the king's weakness, also initiative. And the dynamic advantage can be lost quickly if only you initiate a wrong plan. For example, you see the enemy king is weak, but instead you focus on the queen side attack. And the king is on the other side. So, well, you won't be able to take advantage of the enemy king weakness in such a case, and most likely he'll do some defensive moves to secure his king's position. So if you choose a if you don't choose a proper plan, you are unlikely to lose your dynamic advantage. So please remember it. That's why for players of your level, I always, and even for myself, I always suggest to convert static factors, I mean, dynamic factors to static factors. For example, you have the attack, you see there is no checkmate, fine. Just capture the material and pass the game to the endgame with extra pawn or two pawns. Well, that's why, for example, I'm not a fan of a pawn sacrifice. Well, I can sacrifice a pawn, but at the same time, I should understand that this and these are my dynamic advantages, and my future plan is this. And this plan is likely to either allow me to gain the pawn back or provide me with more benefits. So I'm sure you understand it, at least I hope. If not, then I can specify it because it's a very complicated topic. So, for example, I was studying it myself at the level of 2200. So I took a book of Boris Gelfand. So it's dynamic decisions in static positions or something like that. So this is what I recommend, but you can find it too hard to follow. So that's why I'm trying to explain these topics on the webinar. However, these examples are not taken from that book. Okay. Okay, one more thing. You also have to keep in mind which factors will stay and which factors will disappear once the position changes. For example, once you initiate an exchange of pieces or even pawns. And the best way to learn it is to analyze the games played by grandmasters. It's great when the game is analyzed and annotated by someone really strong because it explains a lot and you're learning from it. However, if the game is not annotated, you may choose the game where a grandmaster was playing, let's say, a candidate master, so 2500 versus 22, because then the plan of a grandmaster is more clear. And it would be great if you choose such games played in the openings that you played. This is how you will understand what you should be doing in such type of the positions and which forms of advantage you usually get there. Okay, so here knight f6 is playable. No, it's not. What's the purpose of knight f6? I don't understand. You cannot play queen g4. I mean, it doesn't make sense. At least rook g7 can be played. No, knight f6 is not playable. Well, it's f4 was played in order to undermine, and if e takes f4, it's queen capture on f4. But black played bishop e6. Well, looks like it's a good move. They're trying to improve the bishop, and they're about to take on c4, so it's not a big issue. For example, if f takes e5, they can take with this, and now if the e5 pawn is captured, I think it's just bishop e2, and black has some counterplay on the e file. So but f takes e5, white played this move, kind of prophylaxis. However, before making any other moves on the board, let's take a look at this position. So bishop e6 is played. What do you think is the main advantage of the black's position? So this position is better for black. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe it's equal. So, and this is clearly better for white. So what is the main advantage of the black's position? The knight's outpost. Very good. So, okay, fine. So the knight's outpost on d4. And yeah, it's so obvious that you may overestimate it. Yeah, the knight on d4 is good, but this is not the exact case where the knight on d4 provides you with a significant advantage. Well, why? First of all, what this knight is attacking, all these squares are not so important and they are attacked with white pieces. Second thing is that one knight duplicates the other knight. What they could try instead after f4 is to capture. So instead of this, take knight c2, taking the rook, rook goes there, queen d4 check, activating the queen. So queen b8 is queen b8 is coming, so rook a c7, something like that, threatening with knight a3, doing a fork, and the queen is quite active. So, but the knights are coordinated at least. But when the knight is on d4, they are duplicating each other. So the knight on e5 is not doing much then. So bishop e6 was played. Well, f takes e5, f takes e5, king h1. King h1 is a kind of inaccuracy. There was a better move to play. What do you think? Which better move I'm talking about? So knight e d6. Yes, it's important to play with the e knight to d6. Now what? If they take on c4, knight takes c4, and it seems that... No, actually, no. Queen takes c4. Queen takes c4 is better. The king moves away. Yeah, if the king moves away, there is a fork, I think. No, two rooks, no fork. So you can play knight f5, and bishop c6, winning a pawn at least. Okay, fine. So what if they decide to capture on d6? So c takes, rook moves back, and rook takes e5. So every time bishop captures, queen captures with the check. So there is no chance to win the pawn on d6, and most likely the c6 pawn is also lost. So that's right. Knight e d6 was the best move. In the game, it was king h1. This is, well, this prophylaxis is not required and is considered as a tempo loss. But it's mainly to not let the queen to invade. However, the queen doesn't invade because the knight doesn't have a very good retreat. So it can go to only b5 now, which doesn't make much sense. So bishop d5, rook f1, activating pieces, and rook f2. So there is an open file. That's why not to double. And in this position, they decide to take. We can capture with the queen. However, it seems that in such a case, we blunder this. So this doesn't favor you, I think. And if instead you take on e6, I also doubt that it favors because there is this move and black has extra material. So d takes c4 is a must. So we double the pawns. They are weaknesses. I mean, they are blocked and not really doing much, but at the same time, they control these two squares, and they provide this knight with an outpost on d6, which is much more important than d4 knight, because this outpost isn't so helpful. Knight goes to h6, rook f7, knight f7. They still cover d6. And queen d1, targeting this pawn. Queen goes to a5. Queen h5, attacking there. Queen c7, bishop h3. So you see, this knight on d4 seems like a good piece, but is doing nothing. And the e5 pawn is also a problem. Well, it's still fine if black plays this move. It's still okay, and probably they can hold the position and end in a draw. But they wanted a counterplay and play this. Queen g4, well, because h3 bishop was hanging too. Look at these pieces again. So it looks like the knight on d4 is a well-placed knight, but doesn't really do much. The knight will be active in case if we swap queens and rooks. So if we exchange these pieces, then this knight will be active. Otherwise, not. Otherwise, the activity of this knight is not so valuable for the black's position. So rook g6, queen goes back, queen a7. Now queen b1, trying to go to b6, because then the queen will be attacking here, as well as there will be a chance of doing a pass pawn. And in this position, they also made a mistake. So knight d8 should be played. Some passive defense is required. But they played knight g5. What would you play here? What do you think? So queen b6. Yeah, thanks, Brian. It's queen b6. Bishop g2 is too slow. Instead, queen b6, right? Because the queen is hanging, and if queen takes queen and then they take our knight or bishop, then they cannot stop the pawn on b7. Neither with their knights or the rook. Okay, so queen a8 is a must. Now knight g5, rook g5, and queen c7 threatening with a checkmate. How to defend? Well, it looks like the bishop is more active, and the rook doesn't have many squares. So the knight is still attacking nothing, but the bishop is ready to join the attack if needed. Also, there is a chance of bishop c8. So black pieces are paralyzed. They need to create an escape square for the king. So not this, because they lose a rook, but h6. Now, what would you play? So queen f7, king goes to h8, let's say. I think there is a better move you can play here. Okay, so c8, bishop c8 is nice. Rook b1, just a simple move, rook b1. And then, well, the d file is closed, so you use the b file. And this is where black resigned already. Why? If they played this move, which is logical, it's simply bishop g2 with bishop a4, attacking the king. And g6 fails, knight f5 creates a pin, which allows us to take advantage of this pin by doing g4 even immediately. So I don't know how to defend. Let me see if there is anything. So maybe knight f5 right away, but then it's can be bishop c6 played right away. Maybe just this move, because this is pinned. So if I play this move, how do you play them? You cannot bring the king to the back rank because of rook b1, and g4 is a threat at the very next move. g4, rook g4, bishop f5, the game is over. So that's why he resigned after rook b1. But bishop g2 coming there, that's it. Okay, fine. So what did happen in this position? There was a knight on d4, and black thought that because of this knight, their position is better, and they should keep their knight on d4 for a while, which was a mistake. This knight on d4 wasn't really doing anything helpful and was duplicating the f5 knight. So if, let's say, maybe if this knight was located somewhere on b5 or one on d5, one on d4, that would be much greater for the black's position. But this knight wasn't doing much. And, well, other pieces were also not coordinating. And the black's position didn't contain any weaknesses that black could take advantage of. So the best way they could try to do is to activate their queen with queen d4 check. Well, this position looks fine, approximately equal. Well, no, maybe the engine thinks white is better, but practically it's equal. So the queen on d4 is doing a lot of tasks which restricts enemy pieces. Okay, so what did happen? Black overestimated this factor, and because of that, took a wrong decision of doing bishop e6. And later, you see, all white's play didn't affect the position of the knight on d4, so the knight becomes completely useless. The next example for today, so it's the game between Karpov and Kasparov. Well, black seems to be better here. Well, actually, the position is approximately equal. There is some kingside pawn activity, but the pawn on d4 is weak. It's only defended by the rook. But black has a pawn chain here, so b7 is relatively safe too. Also, the bishop on g2 is not doing much, it's restricted. So we cannot say that this is the position where the bishop is stronger than the knight. Definitely not. The black It's a semi-open position, and the black knights may occupy unprotected squares into the white's camp and probably create some threats. However, well, what would you play in this position for black? Because Kasparov made a serious mistake and lost all of his positional benefits. So let's play better than Kasparov. No, it's black to move. Yeah, Brian, it's black to move. So Johnny suggests rook e1. Okay, Johnny, you are better than Kasparov. Rook e1 is recommended. Yeah, okay. John Scott thinks that black has good control over the e4. Do you mean that we should jump with the knight to e4 right away? Not necessarily. Okay, if you said yes, I would say that you are like Kasparov. And Johnny is better than Kasparov because rook e1 is better than knight e4, which was played in the game. Fine. Well, not necessarily. Yes, we shouldn't actually go there right away. This is definitely a mistake. We can bring the knight to e4 when it's the right moment. At least now we can activate our rook by doing this move, maybe then double, and get our second rook somewhere here to make this a weakness. Because f6 is unlikely to lead to anything dangerous because you can take and always block with a knight. What's wrong with 94? What do you think? So the main weaknesses of the white's position are the weak pawn on d4 and the bad bishop on g2. So what's wrong with 94? Okay, so yeah, I see your suggestion. Okay, so everyone here agrees that we should capture on e4 and get rid of our bishop. So maybe Kasparov didn't estimate it properly. He thought that the bishop is stronger than the knight, maybe, or maybe he had something else in mind. But it's definitely a mistake. The bishop isn't so good, and white is happy to exchange this bishop for a knight. D takes a4. Now what? This is a weakness. Rook a3. It seems that this pawn can be captured and black wins a pawn, right? But after rook a4, knight a4, it's simply rook takes f5. And the material is, it's even favorable for black because they are a pawn up. Wait a sec. So in this original position, the material is equal. But in case of this, no, wait, this is what happened in the game. In case of rook a4, rook takes a4, black is able to win a pawn. So probably this is what Kasparov had in mind. But there is no need to drop the pawn on e5 and play something else. So here Karpov plays king to h3. Why? To move the king there and protect f5 with the king. Rook a5 was played to attack it with one more time. King goes to g4. And this is where black makes another very important mistake. So what they should play, what do you think? What black should play here? c5? What's the purpose of c5? Well, you play okay, you play c5, so can I capture this pawn? Think I can. So, well, this is a blunder. This doesn't work because I have enough defenders of f5. Maybe this works. What's the purpose of this move? So if no, then I take with a check. So if rook takes, then I still no. Well, no, then I take here. Oh, very nice. So if rook takes, then I take with my rook. If knight takes, then I take there. Okay, right. But then I can take there. However, this move is playable to create a discovered attack, but it actually fails because rook a3, rook f2, and white is a piece up, and there is also a checkmate on the back rank. So c5 loses the pawn on e4. Rook fe8 can be played instead, I agree. So, and it's hard for white to play for a win. The game would continue with this move, and they would still win this pawn. King g8, for example, rook takes rook. And, well, this position is likely to be a draw. There is a chance for white to create a pass pawn on the king side, but it's not winning. Instead, after king g4, black thinks that he can play for a win and does h5. This is a critical mistake because after making this move, of course, they can capture on f5. But here, Gary didn't evaluate properly. So he thought that this was the edge pawn, and by sacrificing it, he can capture a very important pawn on f5. But he didn't take into account the activity of the white's king. So, well, this doesn't make sense because of knight takes f5 with a strong attack and some counterplay attacking f2. That's why king takes h5. But king h5 means that the f5 pawn can be captured. Well, it's a double attack, so rook takes, knight takes, rook e4. So this king is active, and by moving the king there, there is a mating threat, for example. Also, if you imagine, let's say, something like this, so rook e7, it is a disaster. Even if it's a pawn in game, the rooks are exchanged, there is a chance to advance the pawn on h6, convert it to a pass pawn, and move to the queen side, while the black king is able to stop the h pawn and capture it. White can already capture these pawns. So white is closer to the queen side with the king on h5 rather than black, because of the ability of white to create a pass pawn and distract the black king. Okay, fine. So this king is active, and this factor was underestimated. So Kasparov thought that probably he can dry out the position. Well, rook e7, g6 is coming, so rook e7, g6 cannot be played, and b7 becomes a weakness. So if rook b5, it's this. Rook b3, it's a checkmate. That's why they have to sacrifice the pawn on a7, b4. So please tell me a winning plan for white in this position. White is a pawn up, but at the same time, he is completely winning because he has one specific plan. Well, even without this plan, the position is should be winning. But with this plan, it's obviously winning. So who can tell me the plan? Well, rook b7, c5 probably. King g4, okay. Okay, create pass pawn and put rook behind it. Okay, on which flank? If you do it on the king side, the pass pawn will be the h pawn, but there is a king in front of it. Definitely queen side. Okay, how can you do it? Because it sounds logical, but your rook is ahead of the pawns. And also, I don't see a possibility of creating the pass pawn. Once you do this, they take en passant, and the b pawn can be exchanged for the c pawn. So, well, in abstract position, this sounds like a winning plan, but in this concrete position, it seems that such a plan doesn't work. So rook b7, c5. So, Johnny, can you please specify what are you going to play after king g4? So king g4 does make sense. So let's say, okay, b4, this is the position we have. King g4, let's say rook f1. But c5 anyway. So rook b7 and then c5 anyway. Come on, guys. So the plan is so obvious. You have this. Okay, fine. So let me help you. No, okay, so let's talk about this plan. So this, then you play rook here, then this, rook c7. No, it's not a Zugzwang. They have checks, and they can also play this move. So let's say they play this move, rook c1. And what if they also play this move? So you take there, they take here, you go there. Well, this seems to be winning, actually. Okay, so they play this move, and then they play rook c2. So they're gonna take first, and then they will attack b3. So no king g4, but which move to play? You mean this, rook c7 right away? But this is not a Zugzwang. Okay, fine, guys. Well, the plan is actually to advance the pawn to h6 and take advantage of the pin. So king goes there, rook f1 and h5. h6 is the next move. The pawn is lost. Well, you may say, but what if they take on g5 and locate the pawn there or start doing checks? I'll show you. So rook g1, moving back, h6 anyway. And then this move is coming. Then there will be two extra pawns and the king is closer to the queen side. So rook g5, you just exchange the rooks and you are closer to the queen side comparing to the black's king. So this is a simple win. Taking advantage of the pin on there. Fine. So which positional mistakes did Kasparov make? So first of all, he allowed white to get rid of their disadvantages. A weak pawn on d4 and the bishop on g2, which is not so good. So by playing this, he didn't win a pawn. He exchanged it for the pawn on d5. So it was okay for a draw, but for a win, he'd better activate his pieces by doing rook a1 in the very beginning. And his second mistake was exchanging the h pawn for the f pawn. He thought that he liquidates a very important pawn of the white's position, but here his main mistake was that he provided white king with a lot of activity, and that factor became more valuable than the pawn on f5. Okay, fine. So we have one more example. We will explore it from until a certain moment, and then we will play the game from a certain position. So what do we have here? Black has a very strong initiative. All right, their knight is active. It attacks there. The bishop is attacking here. Well, f4 is under attack, but there is a bishop protecting it for at the moment. And this king is weak, so this is a long-term advantage because there is no place for the king. So this time there is no chance for white to secure the king's position. That's why this factor is the most important. What do you think black should play here? So weakness, potential weakness, weak king. This king can be weak, but even if the rook comes and the queen goes there, in case if the king has f8 square, it's not a checkmate. Yeah, white has threats, but this is not a threat. There is a pin. So it's a potential threat. So rook c5, for example, fails. Rook c5 fails. Well, it's actually black to move, but even if it was possible to play rook c5, then knight d4, and then threatening to take on f3 with a check and exchange the queens. And if queen d4, it's queen takes f3 and bishop g7, bishop from g7 taking on d4 then. So your suggestions are rook d8. Well, d5 is for white, but the question is what black should play here. So rook d8 makes sense. I agree with you. This is a good move. Yes, with such a move, we should take advantage of this weakness of the white's position. So they would probably react with maybe king e1, trying to get rid, then another check. They move queen h1, then they threaten with rook h3, so king g8, and now rook h3 doesn't really work because queen h7 is just a check, but d4 is a permanent weakness. Also, the queen got activated, attacking a lot of pieces on the other side. So yes, we should pressure the d4. It's not, we don't win the game right away, but we should definitely focus on the attack of this because this guy is unable to defend it. So what did black do? Black decided to convert their advantage to initiative. So they have actually two permanent or two static factors. This is a weakness, and the other one is the king. Well, usually before that I told you that the king weakness is not a permanent weakness because it's possible to play some defensive moves and secure the king. But in this position, it's hard to imagine which moves to play to make the king safer. Maybe some moves can be played and it may become a little safer, but it's still not enough. So the king's weakness is a long-term problem. And they took here, they decided that they should convert their positional factors into the initiative, which actually resulted as a completely useless tactical strike. So bishop f4, rook f4, fine, check. Bishop f8, so no blunders, of course. Black was expecting it to happen. King f2, another check. King goes to e1. Now what? They should try to repeat the position with queen h4 and hope to draw the game. For example, queen h4, the king goes to, let's say, d2, and you may take on d4, but if you do so, you can be checkmated, right? So this. Yeah, this is a checkmate. So instead, it could make sense to keep repeating. So queen h1, rook blocks on f1. Now, yeah, okay, this is what happened in the game, but queen h4 was good, and after king d2, it was possible to repeat the position with this move. And then draw the game. So d4 is always hanging. If king e2, oh, well, another check, and if king e2, it's knight d4. But instead it was this move played. So now exchanging the rooks and the queens is a disaster. So queen h4, king d2. Now they decided to exchange the rooks. This is hanging, but the idea of black was to capture on d4. The queen blocks on d3, but when we exchange pieces, this rook versus bishop and pawn advantage becomes stronger. So another check, king goes to d1, and finally knight d6 to build a kind of a fortress. Black realized that they made a serious mistake, and now they have to defend their position, but white was able to convert their advantage. So your task is to find how exactly to play here. I'm going to send this position to the chat, and we are going to play the games. So let me do it. So this is the position. Those of you who want to play, please tell me your username. We are going to play on chess.com. By the way, guys, so the webinars are free, but if you like the content that I present on the webinars, and if you want to support me, there is an option to do it through PayPal. So this is the link. Let me show how it works. This is the link that you can click on. Then if you want to donate, you can click on this button, enter the amount that you want to donate. Then it redirects you to your PayPal account, and you can successfully enter it and send a donation to me. So, well, it helps me a lot, especially to prepare such content. I'm not the only person working on it, so I have few people helping. They are collecting the games, and then I choose and prepare this content for you. So there is actually a lot of job. And do not forget, the webinars are free. Even if you don't have such an option, it's fine. Uh, uh, so try, if you like the webinars, just tell your friends about it, let them come and enjoy learning and playing too. So what now? We are going to play. Okay, so we are going to play. It's custom position odds, 15 plus 10. So, and we are going to play from that position, the position that we started, the position that we finished our analysis. So this one. Okay, you see my screen. And let me choose. So Chess and Fun 2023 against Georgios. Okay, so I play with black pieces. The challenge is sent. Please accept it. And Johnny also wants to play. Okay, fine. Once these games started, I will send another challenge. So Georgios, you should enter the live section of chess.com. Okay, so let me start the new. Yeah, I think you still have this. Just so custom position odd 15 plus 10. I'm now sending to Johnny. So playing with black. Okay, fine. So 2 challenges, guys, please accept it. Okay, finally Georgios did accept it. So I thought you are from Greece, actually. I don't know why I thought so. But it shows a German flag. So I'm originally from Russia, but now I'm living in Argentina. So you have to play with within 30 seconds, otherwise the game will be aborted. Anybody else wants to play? If yes, please let me know your username. Okay, guys. So what's going on? Why we cannot play the game? Who is to move first? What? So it's white to move. Knight d6 was the last move. Okay, Johnny, please accept. Okay, white to move, but you have to play within 40 seconds. So white to move here. Maybe anybody else wants. Yeah, okay. Let me send a new one. Some problems with connection. It's a pity. Okay, Brian. Perfect. Okay, once this game started, okay, queen h3, good move, actually. So king g8 or king g7, what is better? Let's do this move first. Uh-huh. King f7. Yeah, king f7. Okay, so two moves are played, so new game. Okay, the challenge is sent. Your challenge doesn't match the member's current matching. Okay, you have to adjust your settings. Okay, queen h5. Where to move my king? e6 or not? e6, maybe knight c5 then. And then I lose the game. So g7. How do I accept challenges? Go to the live section to click here. So this and then play. And then once I challenge you, you will see a notification. Okay, it seems that this move is a must. Okay, Johnny, so the challenge should be accepted. I mean, you should see the notification. Okay, Queen f7 here. King f7, I mean. So what am I threatening? Queen d4, probably. But again, not sure, because I may lose my bishop if white somehow attacks it. Okay, maybe it will be easier if you use the link. Okay, finally. Queen rook c5. Makes sense. So now this is a threat, and then queen h7. Well, let's make a couple of checks and then decide how to continue. What else I can do? Now let's do a check. So here, queen d5. e6 is playable. No. Okay, king g7. Okay. Okay, in this position, so okay, guys, I will send you challenges. Just a sec. Games, new game. So custom position order, 15 plus 10, fin. Play. No. So knight c3, right. Okay, let me try this. Hope it's not a blunder. Queen h5. Okay, so Brian, I don't understand the purpose of these checks. Okay, I'll challenge Georgios one more time. Maybe I can also use this link. Okay, so the challenge is sent. Also, yeah, fine. Try to use this link, maybe it will help you. Okay, king g7, queen d5, centralizing the queen. Good idea. But what are you threatening with? You're covering g2. So what if I take on c3? If the king takes, it should be okay. What if the rook takes? So bishop takes, rook takes. No, I don't think. Let me just play a reasonable move like that. Queen g4. Okay, so here, queen g4, king f7. So I have, well, the game with Brian ended in a draw. Okay, fine. Queen h5, offer an exchange. Okay, here, king g7, rook h5, king goes to g7. This move, yeah, I was expecting it. This is hanging. So king g6. Yeah, it was a repetition. So Brian, would you like to play one more time?
Oh, I'm enjoying watching. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
okay. So now I cannot take the rook, so king takes or pawn takes. Well, taking with the king secures my knight, but I would like to take with the pawn to make a passed pawn. Maybe it is a mistake, actually. Good move. Now let me defend. It's also a good move. Okay, rook c3, threatening with rook f3. Okay, fine. What do I have? I can get my king escaped, so let's do this move. Fine. Now I would like to play queen b5. Oh, kind of a Zugzwang. Yeah, that's right. It's a losing position. So let me explain. If this, then this. What else I can do? F4, king f4. Okay, let's try it anyway. No. Yeah, let's try it. Knight goes there, so the knight is not hanging, but this is how I can play bishop g7 now. So, okay. So I cannot play f4, and I cannot move the knight, so I can push the pawn. And if I do this, okay, king h6, so queen h5, fine. Then where should I go? f8, rook f3. Yeah, I don't have a choice actually. f8, rook f3, bishop f6. Should be okay. This move, logical. Okay, now I'm in a trouble actually. At least I cover here. Okay. Yes, and now I lose the game because of simple move rook g3. Yes, it's over. Yeah. So I lose the bishop. Okay, fine. Nothing can be done here. Well, this can be done. Yeah, then this. And then it's time to resign. So you're doing really well. And the last game where I'm also losing, a5. Okay, finally. a5, a5. g7. So king f7. Yeah, okay, so it's a losing position. Okay, fine. Okay, and the last one. Okay, king f7. Maybe instead I should activate my bishop to h6, who knows? Mm. Okay, so thanks, Georgios, for playing the game. Rook f1 here. What do we have? So rook f1 with the idea of doing this. Let's deliver this attractive check. And then how do I play next? So at least the rook doesn't go to g2. I can play king f6, hoping for bishop h6, but not sure if it works. So this is a very attractive move. Let's say the king goes back and I decide to capture on a4, then rook g2. So king h6, queen g5, so it's a disaster. So let's do king f6. Maybe not. Yeah, let's, okay. So what else do I have? Okay, let's do king f6. I want to get the bishop to the game. Yeah, knight c5. I was expecting this move. So let's do a check like I originally wanted. So queen e6 is now a threat. Queen e1 is attractive move, or queen a1. Let's do this. So king b3. Okay, so I don't like my position anymore, and it seems that I have to exchange the queens. Okay, another check. Queen f5. This check. Rook f2 is coming. So queen f5, knight g7. e5, queen d6. So the king has to move where? To g6. This is the only option. Then rook g2. But then I can play king h7, so it's not so bad. Or maybe bishop, well, bishop g5, I pin my pieces, which I don't want to. Okay, king h7. So it seems white has to exchange the queens now. Well, I hope to not lose at least one game. Okay, rook f2. Logical. So there is no checks here. Well, I can repeat the check on b1, I think. What else? I have this move too. Then queen h4. I have a5. Knight f5 take. Okay, queen. The queen check seems to be the most natural one here. Okay, queen f1. So I'm not actually threatening with much, but maybe I want to exchange the queens myself. Then I can activate my knight. Who knows? But then I lose one of. No, I don't want to lose my pawns actually. So that's why, if to exchange the queens, then do not. I shouldn't let white to play rook b7. So the queens are exchanged. So if I play bishop e3, it's rook e2. So let's bring the king instead. Okay, what else? No, actually bishop e3 looks fine because I then have knight f5. So a fork is coming. Okay, king g7. King f6. So knight f5 or knight b5. So knight f5 because knight, yeah, knight f5. Of course, I need to protect the bishop. So why even I'm asking it? Okay, now e5. What else I can do? Knight d4 is not playable. Yeah, this move. So I'm running out of moves. Maybe e6 was a better move here. And d4 fails. e4. And if they take, no, e4 doesn't work. Okay, maybe this move. Knight g3, but Brian, I lose two pieces. I lose two pieces for a pawn. Okay, a7 is also hanging here. Well, this is what I missed. e4 now. Okay, so let's say I play a6. What happens? Knight e5, rook e5. Yeah, a lot of options. So let's do this move. Now the knight is hanging, so I have to move it. And where do I move? I move to d1. It's a very specific move, actually. Knight c3, king goes there. I can get my pieces trapped. Okay, what else do I have? Let's decide. Well, rook a3 is coming, so I should move the knight. Knight d1, rook a1, knight c3, maybe knight f2. Okay, let's do knight d1. Okay, this move. Then either knight f2 or knight c3. Knight f2, king goes to, let's say f3, knight d3, d1, d4. No, it doesn't work. Okay, knight c3. Bishop b2 then. If I do knight a4, okay, so bishop b2, king c2, knight a4, king b3. The second option is knight a4 move. The knight e2 has to be played. Oh, no, it's even a mistake. No, it's lost. So actually, nothing helped. So how do I save my pieces here? So king b2 is the next move. I can play this, but then it's king b3. I can play a5. No, it fails. a6. Rook takes c1. Knight takes, king takes. It's losing. So bishop f4 is the only option, according to what I see. But it's still a losing move, actually, guys. It doesn't help. Rook a1. Oh, rook a1 is a good move too. So knight c1 is a must. No. Well, what else to play? King move. No, this. Then I have to take, but it's losing anyway. Let's try to do anything. So a6. Well, yes, it's completely losing. Okay, fine. Okay, thank you for the games. I think I lost everything. But to be honest, you had a decisive advantage, so there was no chance for me to play. Okay, so let me share the screen once again and explain what happened in the game. But you actually played well. So what did happen? So rook c5 right away. So similar to what you did, but queen h3 was a better move. So this, and then once there are no checks, the rook can go to c5. That would be better. Rook c5 right away, bishop h6. So I was trying to do something like that. Then rook d5, king g8, and the knight goes to the game. This is also important factor. It was better to include what you did with queen h3. Here, queen b2, an attempt, but knight e6, and there is no counterplay. Just keep an eye on this square. Knight g7, queen g7, and finally the queens were exchanged here. So a7 was captured and the queens were exchanged. And then it's a completely losing position. So b5. So no more checks. And the queens are exchanged. So then there is nothing to discuss. King goes to c5, the pawn is lost. Then black is also in the Zugzwang and allows white to advance the pawn. Okay, fine. So today we are talking about positional factors that determine the evaluation of the position. And what I want you to remember from this webinar, at least, that you shouldn't be focused on one specific positional factor. You should analyze the position in complex. You should compare how your benefits correspond with the drawbacks of your and the enemy position. So don't only think about, well, I have a good knight on d4, but what this knight is doing and how it's helpful for the position in general. Or like, I have a bad bishop, so what should I do? Well, it's okay. Later, once the position is open, the bishop becomes better. But if your position doesn't have any other weaknesses, it should be fine. Okay, fine. So there will be no webinar next Sunday. I have a trip, but there will be webinar after that. And soon I will announce my group lessons. Not sure when we start, in October, definitely. But maybe the announcement will be ready next week. I'll send, and I also send homework for everyone. Those of you who are in the chat, I can send it right away. So this is your homework. Also, any questions, you can message me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. Maybe we should do the second part of this webinar also, devoted to the same topic, because it's very complicated topic. There are a lot of things to remember. And again, if you want to donate, there is a link to the PayPal button to donate. Fine. See you in 2 weeks. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend.